Kris, thank you so much for being here. We're so excited to have you
Thank you so
representing the
much for having
Trailblazer
me.
community. I'm gonna go a little bit off script, but I have to because I am still uh, buzzing from many questions. But I know that you are a sailor, and I thought maybe
I
we could
am.
just start by tell us something about being a sailor that we do not know. You and your husband, you. I'm not even going to say it. I don't have the right words. I'm going to, I'm going to say the wrong thing. So tell us something about being a sailor that none of us would know.
Oh my goodness. I love that we're starting with this. Well, first, yeah, so my husband and I are sailors. We started sailing up in the Pacific Northwest. So if anyone on the call is from the Pacific Northwest, maybe give some PNW love in the chat. We grew up sailing there. Actually, the map behind me, you can see here, is a group of islands called the San Juans. And that is where we sail every summer. It is the most beautiful place to sail. You can go to different islands and anchor and hike, and it is just absolutely amazing. It's become my favorite kind of vacation. We actually call them sailcations. I'm a marketer at heart, so we call them sailcations. And it's just, if you've never done it, I highly recommend trying it out. It is just, in the words of Christopher Cross, sailing takes me away. It is phenomenal. It's incredible.
Okay, David Spinks asked a question in the chat. I have to ask it. What can sailing teach us about community?
Oh my goodness, that is a really, really great question. Um, I think it's interesting because with sailing, it's really hard to plan. You might have an idea of your destination and where you want to go, but when you wake up in the morning and the wind and the currents and the tides might tell you to go otherwise, and you have to quickly change your plans. And that's something I've learned from our community. You might have an idea of what your community should do, how you want it to look, but at the same time, like your community, your people might have different plans and they might steer you in a different direction. And as a sailor, I have learned you do not go against the tides. You do not go against the wind. You go with the wind, you go with the tides. And the same thing is for community. Listen to your customers, go where your community wants you to go. Much less resistance. You're not fighting upwind. It's going to be a smoother sail. I love that question, Derek. That was, was a really fun
I love
question
that
because
answer.
it does really, there really are similarities that I had never thought about before. But yeah, I mean, the fundamentals of sailing is, don't fight the weather, don't fight the current. And I think the same thing with community. Listen to your customers, go where they want to go.
I think we've got the beginnings of a great Dreamforce talk, 2022. It's coming our way, hopefully.
Oh,
Um,
I am
I
in for this.
get like you have like the most elaborate stages. Like get one of the sailboats there in the Moscone Center. Uh,
I
so
think we can do this.
I would
We
love
can
to
make a whole
start.
Salesforce pun.
Oh my gosh, it's going so far. I feel like I am so just being immersed in the industry. Like in some ways, I think who could have not heard of the Trailblazer community, but of course people haven't. Could you just tell us what is the Trailblazer community for those that don't know?
Yeah, of course. So, I'll start with, many of you that aren't familiar with the Trailblazer community might be a little confused. Like, why isn't this called the Salesforce community? Why is it called Trailblazer community? And we actually did this really thoughtfully when we were thinking about our community. We started our community years ago. It was called the Salesforce community. Um, but really, I mean, just like my sailing analogy, it's about the people. It is about the community. It's about them. And it almost didn't feel right to call it the Salesforce community because it's about our people. And you've all heard the word trailblazer. And if you look up the word trailblazer, it literally means innovator, pioneer, someone who blazes a trail for others to follow. And when we think about our community, that defines the people in our community. They are innovators, they're lifelong learners, and they're helping other people blaze their own trails at Salesforce. And when we thought about that word, we're like, wow, there's nothing better that describes our community than Trailblazer. And our community is about our people. So we did this about 5 years ago. Let's rename our community to Trailblazer Community and really show our community that it is about them and their success. And since then, we have millions of people in our Trailblazer community. And this is this interconnected network of people who are helping each other. They're learning together. They are mentoring each other. They're giving back together. And we have our online community at trailblazer.salesforce.com. And then we also have all of our community groups. So people who are getting together in person and online, meeting monthly or quarterly. It's this whole amazing network of people, our Trailblazers. And we were very thoughtful in making sure the community is about them. It is branded for them. It is not about our product. It's about them. So that's just a little kind of look behind why it is the Trailblazer community and what it really is.
What do you think has made the Trailblazer community so unique that it seems to have really, people have really latched onto it and really gotten behind it?
Yeah, I have a lot of personal experience with the Trailblazer community. I'll take us off on a little tangent and tell a personal story. So I've been at Salesforce for over 10 years. But before I worked at Salesforce, I worked at a really small little startup company in Seattle, Washington. And I had one of those roles, which I'm sure many people have one of those roles where you're wearing a lot of hats. At that company, we had 30 people in the company. I was the marketer, I was the events person, I was sales ops, I was content and social, and I was also our CRM administrator. So lots of different hats. We had a different CRM platform than Salesforce. And when we decided to move everything over to Salesforce, I really became that person. It was on me to figure out how to implement Salesforce, how to do this. I'm dating myself. This was back in 2003 or 2004 when we got Salesforce. And I found myself, like many people find themselves with a new software, like not knowing what to do, not knowing where to find help. Like I found myself with this big task of having to implement Salesforce and not knowing where to start. So I, of course, like other people do, I just went and Googled like Salesforce, how to get started. And I fumbled upon it was kind of the early workings of what our community was. It was discussion boards and forums. And I quickly found there's all of these people who are asking questions, who are answering questions and helping each other. I put my question, I didn't know what was going to happen. I put my little question, like having trouble getting this data out of Salesforce. How do I get this? And immediately people started answering my question. And it was that moment that I realized how special and how unique this community is. I wasn't expecting that. That was not the experience that I had on a previous CRM platform. So that was something I'm like, wow, this community is special. This community is full of people who are passionate about the product. They are passionate about learning and they're passionate about giving back and helping other people. And I think that is what is truly unique about the community is just this kindred, all these kindred souls that are really wanting to help each other and lift each other up and help each other get to the next level. And I personally experienced that. And that's why I feel this community is just so unique.
Talk to us about a little bit, just how big, what is the scope of the community today? How many groups do you have, and where are people? Are they in every country of the world? Are they like what is it?
Yeah, so there's a couple different layers of our community. So we have the online community. We also have our community groups. And our community groups, we have over 1,300 groups, and these are groups of people who maybe meet based off of their location, like a Boston community group, or maybe they're people who meet based off of a topic, like a marketing user group. So we have 1,300 of these groups, and they are global. So we have groups in over 90 countries. And I believe we have, there's about 1,700 community group leaders. So these are people who have raised their hand saying, I want to lead a group in my area. It's just growing year over year, which is just really exciting to see, and see so many people step up and want to lead and want to bring Salesforce to their communities.
What type of ROI or sort of business impact does Salesforce attribute to the work that you and your team are doing?
Well, when I really think about the community and the impact for Salesforce, at the end of the day, when our customers and our Trailblazers are successful, Salesforce is successful. When they are doing well in their jobs, when they are when they're able to bring things to their companies and bring new products and features to their companies, they are successful and we're successful. And we actually recently did a study. One of our analyst firms did a study, and 3 in 5 Trailblazer community members said that their participation in the community got them a new job or a new promotion, which is just awesome. Like, the community is helping them get bigger roles and get new roles. And then once they are part of this ecosystem, the Salesforce ecosystem, 80% of those people say that the community has helped them be more successful at their company and has helped them increase adoption of Salesforce. So the community is helping them be more successful and be rock stars in their company. And for us at Salesforce, that is amazing, because when they are successful, Salesforce is going to be successful. So it's really this shared success model. And that's why we really feel at Salesforce that community is such a core differentiator for us.
I know when I think about Startup Grind, which is the community that I helped start, and people ask about the success, I always think about specific people or specific places that have really blossomed with Startup Grind's help. Is there anyone in particular, when you think of the Trailblazer community and the success that it's helped create in people's lives, is there anyone in particular that you think of?
Oh my goodness, there's so many amazing stories of people who, literally changed their lives because of their participation in the community. One person, one of my favorite stories that always comes to mind for me. So there's a gentleman named Zach Otero, and he's from the Midwest. He worked in a meat processing factory for years and years and years. His father had worked in that same meat processing factory. His grandfather worked there too. And that was his life. And one day that factory closed down, and he was suddenly faced with, what do I do with my life? How do I feed my family? How do I provide for them? And his cousin had told him about Salesforce. He had never heard of it. So he Googles, finds Salesforce. He starts learning with our free online learning tool, Trailhead, and he got introduced to the local Trailblazer community group. So as he's learning, he started attending some of those community groups. He started meeting people, and those connections over the next 6 months, he invested in his own learning, and those connections that he made through Trailblazer community groups helped him get his job. And now, that was years ago. He's now 2 jobs later and multiple promotions later. He's gone from Salesforce administrator to now he's an analytics administrator. He's moved locations. He just bought a new house for his family. He has experienced that success because, number one, he's a trailblazer. He really invested in his own learning, and he really invested in himself and knowing that he could do it. And he relied and connected with people in the community, people who want to help him and want to connect him to opportunities and give back. And that's just one story. There's so many people that have similar stories like that, that really just the community helps people transform their lives. And I think we're all just on the community team, like, we're all just so happy to be a part of that. It's really our mission and really why we do what we do.
We're going to go 2 quick PSAs. One, feel free to put some questions in the Q&A, and we're going to Beth's going to come back and share some of those in a few minutes. The other is that David Spinks and your sailing puns and things, they need to stop. So let's just cut that off now. It's gone too far. It's
I've missed
consuming
these. I need to see these.
Look, they're right here on the, yeah, they're there. It's streaming too quickly. I mean, just don't, I'll monitor it and make sure we'll block him if we have to.
Oh no, we're going to raise up those puns.
One of the things that we saw last year we work with hundreds of communities, and what was incredible to see from the outside was to see the Salesforce community really shift maybe faster and more more agile than almost any community that we saw. How did COVID and its impact, how did it really change the Trailblazer community?
Yeah, it's a great question, and I think looking at what happened last year, all of our lives were impacted, and not only did we all had to figure out how to work from home. Derek, you're at home, I'm at home. We all had to figure that out. Like how do we get all set up from home? How do we collaborate from home? It's a whole new way of working. But then there's also the other element of how do you connect from anywhere? Like we learned how to work from anywhere. How do you connect from anywhere? And especially for a community like ours that we love getting together in person. We love getting together at our annual conference, Dreamforce, and at our community group events. And that was really hard suddenly to not be able to do that. And what was really amazing to see our community do is, it was weeks into the pandemic, and I think we were all trying to figure out how we do this in this new world. And like I said with my sailing analogy of just following the community, seeing, what are they doing and how do we support them? How do we go with them? We saw our community suddenly start spinning up virtual events. They normally would meet in person. They decided to spin up their virtual events. They did, virtual coffee events. They did virtual user groups. And we saw this happening. We're like, wow, how do we just support them? Let's give them the tools that they need and make sure that they're successful. And we also saw people kind of like jumping on and amplifying this. So there's this amazing woman, Amy Opplinger, and she's a Salesforce administrator. She created this document as she started seeing all these virtual events coming together. She created a document that was open source that anyone could contribute to that had all of the virtual events on it. And so something special about that might not sound like, okay, it's a doc with events. Something special about that is that immediately breaks down all of the barriers to attending a community event. Suddenly, someone in San Francisco could attend the community group event in Paris. There was no barriers to location. And when Amy created this document, she really just opened it up for anyone. So what was really cool last year was not only seeing that we didn't see a decrease in people meeting up for community events, that stayed strong, but we saw an increase of people who were attending the community events. It was a 20% increase year over year. And so they had the same amount of events, but this increase of people joining because we didn't have that barrier to location anymore. You didn't have to travel to Paris to go to the Paris community group event. You could just join the Zoom call. So that was something really amazing that we saw our community do. And we just really want to help give them the tools, give them the structure, and support them, and then kind of get out of their way and let them do their thing. So we're really, again, we watch what our community is doing. We just help amplify it, and we help make sure that they're successful. And last year was just an incredible example of that, of seeing that perseverance, seeing people find ways to connect and find ways to be together when we can't actually all be together and we're all feeling really isolated. So it was really beautiful what we saw happen last year.
Yeah, and it just sort of embodies what is sort of prevalent, I think, in all great communities. But this idea that like the community rallies around something new, they create something that they fill the void with what they need with a new, whether it's an event or a program or an idea, and then Trailblazers in this case really embraced it and ran with it and had all of these really incredible positive effects. What process do you all use or consider when someone wants to do a new idea or run a different type of program to reach customers or their community members? Do they submit them somewhere, or do you just keep an eye? Like, what is the process for you all seeing and sort of growing as a community with new things that are happening?
Yeah, it's, we have a lot of surprise and delight, to be honest, on the community team. And we see this every day where all of a sudden we'll see something on Twitter and we're like, wow, did you know that they're doing a Dreamin' event, which is one of our community-led conference? Did you know that there's a community conference, a Dreamin' event in Pakistan in 2 weeks? We see these things and it's just incredible. And for us, like, we want to make sure, we want to enable that. We want to make sure that people have the tools and the resources to be able to spin up a conference in Pakistan as they want. And we are here to support them. And we want to make sure that if someone wants to spin up a new community group on a certain topic, we are here to support them. We really make sure that we're putting some structure in place, some structure that scales. For example, if someone wants to do a group on something pretty granular, we'll help them. Like, why don't you, instead of having a group on that granular topic, let's up level so you can bring more people in and you can scale across across more countries even. So that's kind of a little bit of the process we put in place of just making sure that when things are getting created, that they are ready to scale, and we're really ready to be beneficial for our whole community. So there's not like a rigid process in place. Again, we do get a lot of surprise and delight of seeing things that our community is spinning up and that they're doing, and we just want to support them and help them and make sure that they're successful.
Okay, so there are tons of amazing questions, and I want to jump to them in just a minute. On a slightly more concerning note, the puns for sailing have kind of like quadrupled. Things like, "Are you saying that ship has sailed? I see what you did there. You're making waves." I mean, it needs to stop.
Oh,
But
these
in
are
some
my
ways, it needs to
people.
keep going. It needs to keep going. It's making it hard for me to concentrate, honestly.
Oh,
Um,
these are my people. I'm loving this.
um, I so before we go to questions, I wanted to just ask you. You're the first person that I have ever heard say that every event is a community event, and that's a phrase that I love. And I would just love to hear what does that mean when you say that every event is a community event.
Yeah. This is something I think when I think about one of our mantras at Salesforce, I think this has been something that has been really core to us and really core to how we operate, that everything that we do, every event that we do should be a community event. There should be a community integration there. And I'll kind of go back again to my first experience with the community. I shared a little bit about my experience with the online community and getting some of my questions answered and that delight that I felt being supported. And I also that same year went to my first Salesforce event. It was in Seattle, Washington. It was this, we called it Tour de Force back in those days. And I remember going to that event, and it wasn't the keynotes, it wasn't the demo booths, it wasn't any of the panels that they had there. It was the people. I remember going to that event and just being so touched and so inspired by the people there. And just like the people who were sharing sailing puns, I showed up to that event of Salesforce's, and I looked around and said, these are my people. I felt right at home, and that feeling has made me so loyal to Salesforce. And I think so many people have had that feeling when they meet their community, they meet their people. There is something that is just so special about feeling like you were part of something bigger than yourself, and you're part of this shared mission that you all share together. And that feeling that I had, I want everybody to have that feeling when they come to a Salesforce event. I want them to come to our events and find their people, to find the people that are going to support them, that they can laugh with, they can network with, that can connect them to their next job, that can help them when they're down. Like, I want everyone to find that. I felt like I found that when I went to my first Salesforce event. And, of course, it's gotten a little bit harder when we've entered this new virtual world, but we're doing it here. We have this chat, and I'm sad that I can't see all of the chat, but we have this chat of people who are joking around with each other. They're connecting on sailing puns, which I love, and you're meeting your people because community is integrated into this event. And, you have the networking areas that you go to afterwards. And that is so special. And you just create this mission and something bigger than you that you're a part of. And I just believe that every single event that we do should have that element, because it makes us all better. It makes our companies better, and it makes our communities better. So that's kind of my spiel on why every event should be a community event.
That, what you described just reminded me of the first time I attended CMX Summit in 2016. And David had invited me to speak and talk about Startup Grind and how we built that. But I came in the morning, and I just remember sitting there, and it was the first time I had been around people that were doing what I was doing, and they were asking the questions I would ask. And I remember, from that moment on, just felt like, hey, I'm like, I am in, a tribe that I should be part of, and feel really welcomed and supported in. And that, whatever that thing is that you're focused on, that's sort of what a community, the void a community is supposed to fill. And Trailblazers does an incredible job for that inside of Salesforce's vast ecosystem of partners and people and companies that whose businesses are so much better off because of the tools that you provide. My last question, and then we'll send it to Beth, is just, I know Salesforce is thinking about building more user-centric experiences, and in pretty unique ways, you're thinking and talking about really weaving in the community across the website and across products. Could you just tell us a little bit about that, and how you're thinking about really bringing the community front and center to every aspect of Salesforce's digital experience?
Yeah, and this is a perfect question, kind of following on what we were just talking about, of like how important community is in every experience. And something that I felt very passionate about is that experience that I got at the first event that I went to, that experience that you got, Derek, when you attended your first CMX Summit, that feeling of finding your tribe, finding your people. Like, I want to, and our team is very passionate about bringing that experience to every single touch point. It shouldn't just be when you go to an event, but it should be across everything. So, when you go to, for us, the Salesforce.com website, and you are getting that experience of trying to, looking at our products, figuring out where to go, community should be surfaced then. It is such a differentiator, and it is such, I think it is so unique and foundational for Salesforce that I want to make sure that it's introduced immediately. It is something that I think everyone will be better when they're a part of. And ultimately, like the last few years, we've had it kind of siloed. You had to really seek out where to find the community, and it's a separate website. And so we really want to bring things together so we can really introduce community at the first touch point, because it is such a huge differentiator for us. It is such, I think it makes Salesforce extremely unique, and giving people that experience that you and I both had of finding your tribe of people. And I want everyone to have that experience right out of the gate, not have to kind of find trailblazer.salesforce.com to get there and find that experience. So that's something that our team's really passionate about, is like weaving in community to everything that we do, bringing it across all of our properties, and really having it be personalized. So surfacing those right community groups that are personalized to whatever page you're on, whatever property you're on, because that's going to give you the best experience. It's going to introduce you to the community that's going to be beneficial to you and to help you in your role. So that's a big focus for us. We're really excited and passionate about that and how we bring community to the forefront.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that and being here. We, again, we could probably just do another 20 minutes with the puns. And I'll just share one. Let's get cracking into the Q&A.
Yes.
Very, very impressive
Oh,
writer.
that was good.
There's a lot of content writers in the CMS community.
That is beautiful.
I have been so distracted, taking lots of screenshots, and I love that we've all gathered around this inside joke. Isn't that just how an inside joke is born? Okay, we do have quite a few questions, and we only have about 5 minutes left. So I want to treat this a little bit like rapid fire with, these are big questions though. So we're going to try to see how much we can get into like 30-second answers. Okay. Based on most popular using the upvote feature in the Q&A section, the first question is from David Spinks. Have you ever had a situation where you felt challenged to drive profit in a way that you felt wouldn't be good for the community? And how have you navigated that balance?
Yes, definitely. And I think there is always, and our team feels this, there's always a constant education and re-education that we do at Salesforce, because people come in and they don't get it, to be honest. Like sometimes we have new leaders come in, they might not understand it, and it's that constant re-education and constantly sharing the feedback from our Trailblazers. And that is something that we do very often is sometimes someone will have an idea. We know that's not the best idea for our Trailblazers. And we'll just really honestly and transparently share the feedback from our Trailblazers. And that always is, always so helpful in kind of getting that executive alignment is this is what our Trailblazers are saying. These are the people who are closest to us, closest to our product and our biggest supporters. And this is not good for them. And we're always doing that feedback loop with our executive stakeholders. And it's something I think for all of us in the community space, we do have to keep on doing that education process.
Definitely. Okay, next question from Meredith Woolard is, what tools did you provide your community leaders for their events?
It's a great question. So, of course, we have Bevy that we're using for our community groups and where they're really organizing their groups. But we also saw when people are spinning up their virtual events, we basically said, like, you can use Google, you can use Zoom. Like, we really just let them use whatever they wanted to use, what they were most comfortable with, because we want them to be comfortable. We want them to use whatever tools that they use, that they're going to be comfortable using. And we were just kind of here to support them. So we didn't dictate any tools for them to use as they were going virtual. We really just supported them.
Excellent. Okay, Lily Lee asks, how do you define someone as successful in your community? What do you do, or what programs do you have to motivate community members and leaders?
I love this question because I think there's so many different levels of what success looks like. And I'm going to tell another story because I love our Trailblazer stories. And I'll try to make this one quick, but quick story of this woman who she's had a 20-year career in Salesforce. She started as an accidental Salesforce admin, got dropped on her lap, and she joined the community. She started learning with other people. She upskilled. And promotion after promotion, she became a VP in her company, and she was running all of their Salesforce implementation. And today, she actually runs her own consultancy. This woman is Crystal Carter. She runs a consultancy called Danny K Cloud, and now she's employing people. So she has over a dozen employees. She is giving back to the ecosystem. So she went from getting Salesforce kind of dumped on her lap. She took advantage of this opportunity. She learned, she grew, and then she started her own company, and now she's employing people. So it's this continuous cycle of Trailblazers really learning, upskilling, and giving back. And I think when I think about success, that is just, I think, what a beautiful success model looks like, of someone who really does that full cycle down to giving back and employing other people in the ecosystem. Sorry, that was a
Very
long-winded
cool.
answer.
No, that's good. I think it's good to bring experience and actual stories into some of these answers so we can kind of paint a picture of how it works. Okay, we have time for maybe one more. So Andrew Biernat, I'm sorry for all of these names that I'm saying wrong. How does the Slack acquisition impact the community strategy and experience?
So that's a wonderful question. So a couple different things. Well, number one, our community group members some of them are already using Slack. They've been using Slack for years. So this is actually a really welcome thing. They're like, finally, we have a future of having this all integrated into Salesforce, which is beautiful. So kind of tools aside of what our community is using, they were already using Slack, and now we're going to bring things together, make it easier on them. And I think from thinking about like a Salesforce ecosystem, where the ecosystem is going, I think about like an acquisition like Slack. That is a whole new set of tools and things for people in our ecosystem to learn. I think about the Salesforce ecosystem as this continuous innovation. Like your skills are never going to be stagnant. There's always something new to learn. And with Slack, our community members now have this whole new product that they can learn and they can bring to their companies, they can become experts in. And it's just that endless innovation. So we see people coming into the community that are like, they are Slack administrators. Their whole world is on Slack. And I think that's what's really great about this community is like the technology is never stagnant. It is always changing, always innovating, whether it's through acquisitions like Slack, and we acquired Tableau and MuleSoft recently as well. Those are new skills for people to learn and new innovations that they can take advantage of and new ways for their careers to go. So it's kind of twofold, kind of another long-winded answer, but a little twofold with giving them great tools to use and also great technology to learn.
Awesome. Okay, I have one more question. What is a pirate's favorite letter?
R.
You'd think so, but it's actually the C.
Oh, that's so good. Oh, I love these.
So good. On that note,
I have one
you.
more.
Okay.
Okay, what is a pirate's favorite fast food?
I don't know.
Arby's.
Of course. Thank you so much, Kris and Derek. Thank you so much. That was such a pleasure to have you both on our stage. Huge round of applause for Derek and Kris.